Policy Committee for the year, and we have an interest rate hike announced 50 basis points, bolder than some of the previous moves. The bank moved into a rate hiking cycle in 2014, a 50 basis points hike, but then those hikes became smaller, 25 basis points generally, quite far between. And of course, the bank between a rock and a hard place. We've got slowing growth, interest rate hikes exacerbate that. We've got high inflation, interest rate hikes help with inflation. Let's get some analysis now. I'm joined by Owen Nkomo from Inkunzi Wealth and Sizwe Nxedlana from FNB, Chief Economist. Let's start with you, Owen. Was this bold enough?
Yeah, look, I think given the circumstances, this is probably the best you could have done. Anything more aggressive than this would in my view, have potentially had more negative undesired results than the 50 basis points that he has done, which is what we were expecting at Inkunzi Wealth, and the market as well was expecting that 50 basis points increase. I think 25 basis points would have been too small to send a message, in my view, to the rest of the world that say South Africa is concerned definitely about fighting inflation. So 50 basis points, in my view, does give them some level of potential to be able to deal with the inflation challenges that the governor was talking about, as you had the aggressive food price assumption that he's making, which are nowhere near 6%, but he expects that they'll push through all the way to 10, 12, 20, 11 odd percent. So I think the decision made was probably the most appropriate given the information at hand.
Sizwe, we were taking bets before. You were going for the 25 basis points. Do you think that would have been more appropriate, or is this correct given, like Owen says, that these inflation targets have just been pushed out quite dramatically, I think?
Yeah, so I don't normally look at it meeting by meeting. I look in terms of cycles, right? Because, it could be 50, it could be 25. It almost becomes irrelevant. The point is we are in a hiking cycle. We started 2 years ago, and things just continue to deteriorate. So the SARB at the moment is extremely concerned about inflation. I mean, for them to tell you that they expect inflation to average close to 7% for 2 years in a row, and then have them tell you that despite growth being weak, it's not their problem because these are structural issues as opposed to cyclical issues that they can sort out using monetary policy, is not only signaling by raising rates by 50 basis points, but they're being exceptionally hawkish, meaning that we probably have more hikes to come in future. So I think the stance is appropriate. The magnitude, whether it was 25 or 50 basis points, I also think is appropriate. And I think signaling the hawkishness via this very large inflation forecast suggests to me that they are very serious about containing inflation and bringing back monetary policy stability.
For ordinary people, what does this inflation outlook mean? So we're going to peak at 7.8% now. We usually try and stay below 6%. So this is quite dramatic. Food price inflation, I mean, the drought hitting home. He said we're looking at 11% in the fourth quarter. For the poor, we're looking at bread prices going up beyond 20 Rand. I don't know what this means. Is it shocking, Owen?
No, look, I mean, I think definitely that it's going to be a challenging year or next 2 years for the consumer, especially the ones that are struggling with unemployment. Whether you're employed or not, you're impacted definitely by the increase in the interest rate.
You have to buy food.
So, the food prices are definitely a big concern, and I think the drought does not make it any easy for the rest of the country. You must understand that we probably have to import anything in the region of 40 to 50% of some of the grain stuff that we always that we need to use in the country, and we're doing that at a very weakened currency, which in my view actually lends some of the authority for the governor and the rest of the committee to have made a decision to be more aggressive with the interest rate increase in order to try and at least maybe in a way potentially support the currency, which has continued to weaken. At least that will address the imported inflation aspect of things here in my view. I think therefore those are some of the things we need to continue to look out for, how food prices behave going forward, and one would like to see the impacts of this rate increase on the currency actually. So if we actually will see the rand firm up, I believe that the decision made today will probably be called the right one.
Okay, so you've mentioned something that a rate hike helps shore up the rand a little bit. It makes us more attractive to those overseas investors. We've just looked at the rand, 16.30 to the dollar at the moment. Before this decision, it was at about 16.35, earlier in the day, about 16.40. So not a dramatic strengthening of the rand, but we'll follow it and we'll discuss that currency after a short ad break.